Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs for today, that is 15th of April 2022. Welcome Netra, Kriti, Ashish, welcome all of you, Bhabani, people writing answers here, great work done. Of course, losing some tracks at some places that I will explain right now. The questions also the first one wasn't as clear. So welcome to all of you. Welcome Hima, good evening to all of you. Let's begin this. Today is 15th of April, Good Friday, and holiday at a lot of places because of a certain reason. Not a celebration, but then this is a day of mourning when Jesus Christ was crucified, right? And then we have the Easter Monday. That's the day when he reappears, right? Resurrection of Jesus. Good evening to Kim. Let's begin this. All right, today's quote: where there is no struggle, there is absolutely no progress. The struggle seen in everybody else's life, everybody's life. One simple example is an athlete. They do find injuries on the way, and then injuries are the way they can make their muscles, their ligaments, tendons, or the body stronger. And the next time you see, they break their own records, and the next time further, they break their records, right? So this is how people achieve feats and break their own records, isn't it? And that's what happens to each of us. So where there is no struggle, there is absolutely no progress. And if there is struggle, there is somewhere we are leading ourselves and making ourselves strong. So do remember that. With that, let's begin the discussion. What do we have in today's discussion are quite a few interesting topics which have been in the news yesterday or today. Reservations and promotion being the first one. Solid state batteries, one solution for the present problems of lithium batteries. The third one is growth forecast for India, which has been reduced by the World Bank to 8% from 8.7%. Duty-free import of raw cotton, tying up with Israel Aerospace Agency, Yakshagana, Centibillionaires Club. The first one to get added from India is Mr. Adani, and then we have Bank Sakhi. Let's understand each of them, and also one important report with the help of Oxfam, which we will discuss with India's growth forecast. All right, so let's start this. The first one is reservation and promotion. This is where I came from. The question that I had asked on social equity and government jobs and promotion, this is where the question came from. So the recent update is that the government has asked all its ministries to start looking at data for the people who are employed with the government and what is the distribution of various social communities in every employment at various levels as well. For example, if the government knows right now that employment in X ministry, Y ministry and Z ministry is 100 persons, 200 persons and 300 persons respectively. The government knows this right now. And if it knows that the number of people from marginalized community, for example, scheduled caste employed in X employment is 2, in Y employment is 5 and in Z employment is say 30. If this is the number, this is the present number that is available with the government and possibly available. But then the court says this is not sufficient. You will have to track down the employment in every department, every small level department in the government. And that is how promotions will happen. See, according to Article 16 of the Indian Constitution, it is mandated that there be reservation in employment and reservation in promotions as well. But this has not been happening because the government has not been keeping a due log of reservation in the promotions at various department levels. Right now, the situation is such that the court had given two important orders. They are one through M. Nagaraj case in the Supreme Court, both of them in the Supreme Court, and it mentioned that in case of reservation in promotion, there have to be three criteria that have to be followed. The first is collect quantifiable data of the deprivation of that particular class that we are going to give reservation. The second one is we have to ensure that we see that there is inadequacy of the representation in employment in that sector. And the third one is having administrative efficiency in the service where we are giving the promotion. So this is one part of it, and Supreme Court again had given a judgment in January this year, and they laid down three conditions for this, and all of them they become significant because on the basis of this significance only, the government will start to have various data on reservation and various data on the communities present at various levels. So the first one is quantifiable data regarding inadequacy of representation that has been derived from the previous judgment itself. Then application of data to each cadre separately, not that only representing that the Ministry of Labor has got this proportion of employment and Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has got this particular percentage of reservation. No, that will not do. They will have to segregate at various levels what is the proportion of people who are serving, so that each community is represented, right? So this is the second category. The issue here is government does not have this data. Center and state governments have requested to the court every time that we do not have this data, and because of this we are not able to promote anybody. There are many litigations, civil cases which are there in courts, and we are not able to go ahead with promotions in central government or state governments. But the court says that we need to have this cadre by cadre data of all the communities, right? So cadre being the unit of operation for promotion roster, cadre, right? Each cadre, not saying government as a whole, but each department must have its own data. This is important so that at every department there is representation of the marginalized communities as well. Now, what is the reason for this issue to come up right now? See, the government had not issued any such order in the last 6 years for having such kind of data. But now it is the people's disgruntledness with the government, because promotion not only for SC/STs, the promotion is not happening for anybody in the last 6, 7, 8 years. It is because of increased number of litigations. So people are not happy, and the marginalized communities have got a greater political say at regional levels now. And when they have got a greater political say, they will also be using this influence to ensure that the administrative level reservation is also given. And that is why the government is now under pressure to have this kind of data. All the communities have emerged as key political lever in the potential to make or break elections. And when people are disgruntled, government will have to come into action. So this is the reason that this has come up lately. So regular promotions are also stalled. Leave apart the promotions which are related to reservation in promotions. And state government, central government have requested the court, but then court says that you give us data for cadre level, not just general level of promotion. And the center and states have never had this cadre level of data. So that is why this delay. So there will be a little delay in promotions, but then eventually reservation in promotion also will be streamlined, and there will be adequate representation of each communities. See, if one thinks that having reservation and getting a job, or maybe having reservation and clearing an examination is sufficient, it is not so, because one will have to fight for reservation at various levels. What has been designated by the Constitution of India, that must be followed, and this is where there are bottlenecks. So do remember this judgment, the January 2022 case and Nagraj case, and both of them, they form the center of reservation in promotions. Do remember this, both very important. All right, the second one is, so I have also been remembering this for all the time since I started my preparation, the Nagraj case judgment. All right, the second one is solid state batteries. Remember, I had explained the complete issue behind what is the reason behind the electric vehicles catching fire. Multiple reasons, right? Technology issues, Indian temperature issues, many issues. And lately there was a news of 20 two-wheeler electric vehicles also catching fire. And after that, many companies, many dealers in India, they have had litigations with the manufacturers and providers, importers of electric vehicles in the country, because they feel that the standards are not good enough, and then there will be lesser of sale. So let us break the contract. So innumerable litigations have started in the country right now. In this, there has been a news. The news says that in case we start using solid state batteries, in case of the lithium ion batteries, which have the liquid electrolyte, there will be no such cases of electric vehicle catching fire. See, we all know, yesterday also we studied about the fact that we need renewable sources of energy. The conventional source of energy, for example, petroleum, gas, all of them will not be available by 2030, and we need to switch to cleaner forms. Electric vehicles, battery vehicles form one of those sources. Now, there has been increased number of sales in India. For example, two-wheeler sale, 2.3 lakh of sales in the last year, as compared to only 43,000 the previous year. That means 6 times increased sale. Imagine that, two-wheeler only. If you speak of three-wheelers, then it is around double, 90,000 to 1.8 lakhs. And similar is the number for proportion for the four-wheelers, 5,000 to 20,000, 4 times rise. Amidst all this, if we find increased number of such fires, then this causes a trouble for electric vehicle sale in the country. So solid state batteries provide one solution to the present situation. See, what usually happens is that in a general battery, what happens is that we have two electrodes, anode and cathode. It is from anode that a negative charge, it moves to the cathode, and this causes, in this movement, so this is where the electricity is getting generated, and there is an electrolytic solution here, right? In the solution, the negative charge moves from anode to cathode, and in this process, the whole circuit is completed and electricity is generated. Now, when this is a medium that is liquid, this has certain advantages, this has certain issues. For example, this organic liquid which is present, it is one of the reasons why the batteries catch fire. Yes, this is one of the reasons why batteries catch fire. It is because these solvents are highly inflammable in lithium-ion batteries. So one of the ways is to convert them into solid batteries, solid state batteries. So we will need different kind of electrolytic medium, right? That is one thing that is true. So what happens is that when there is a liquid form of electrolyte here, then this leads to certain issues. For example, it leads to dendritic pattern. It leads to something called as formation of short circuits within the ecosystem itself because of some malfunction. And because of short circuiting, the battery's life, the battery's self-discharge capacity, the battery heating up, this accelerates even further. And because of this electrolytic solution is said to be one of the moderate ways in which a battery could be made. A better way to make battery is solid state battery. But is it that solid state batteries are easy to achieve? No. See, the advantage of solid state battery is not only that there will be lesser fires, it is also that it will be energy compact. The whole energy, it will be denser than the previous batteries right now. So this is the better part about it. But then since the whole technology changes and formation of a solid state battery which has greater ionic potential, good ionic conductivity, this is a challenge. So this is one of the challenge. And another challenge is the brittle nature of inorganic solid electrolyte. The liquid electrolyte was easily inputted in the battery, but then the solid electrolyte, it will be tough for it to be put inside the battery. So a couple of challenges. India, if it is creating a solid state battery by itself, it might even take 3 years plus. So can we wait for that while? We cannot wait for that while. So we will continue with these kind of batteries. That's what. But then if you see the potential of solid state battery market in the future, it is being projected that right now it is only less than a billion, but then it will be 25 billion, more than 25 times, not even 25, it is almost close to 100 times the present market, 100 times within 8 years from now. Imagine this. So solid state batteries is one of the solutions. All right, this is not Bucha killings. This was just my template that I have been using. The third update is on World Bank talking about renewed levels of India's growth in this year and the next year. And in fact, it has re-rated the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent's growth completely altogether. And not only has it downgraded, but ironically and strangely, it has also upgraded certain countries' growth potential. Pakistan's growth potential upgraded from 3.4 to 4.3. What is this, Locha? Anyhow, Pakistan happier than India? How is it possible? Whatever it be, the change of government there, I have covered an editorial. You must look into it to understand what is happening in Pakistan, the complete change in regime. Shehbaz, the younger brother of Nawaz Sharif in power. So, getting back to what is in the news is that World Bank has recalibrated India's growth potential, the growth in this year and the next year. So last to last year's growth was negative. India's economy had contracted 6.6%, and the last year grew at 8.3, the year which just ended. This year projected growth is 8%, which has been decreased from, I think, 8.7%, and the next year the idea is that India will grow at the rate of 7%. This is what World Bank has said, and it attributes this decrease in growth rate to many factors. For example, bottlenecks to supply. This is one. Uneven and fragile growth in the country, rising commodity prices, and financial sector vulnerabilities. Each of them can become a question for you. Each of them. Bottlenecks in supply, we need to understand not only supply internally, but supply externally as well. And inter-country demands as well. Uneven and fragile growth in country. This is uneven, K-shaped recovery. Question already asked on V and K-shaped recovery. Fragile growth of the country because of multiple COVID shocks, because of different times when COVID shocks happen amid different countries. Rising commodity prices, WPI and CPI inflation, everybody monitoring this, right? RBI even hinting right now that it might even raise the repo rate. That was in news yesterday. So these small news will not cover, but then I will keep updating in the conversations. Moving ahead, it says that the inflation levels are high in the country. Then current account balances are deteriorating for not only India, but for all South Asian economies. Yesterday only, Sri Lanka declared its preemptive default of $50 billion plus dollars. $50 billion plus dollars default, preemptive declared. And this is the external debt that Sri Lanka has, right? So asking for billions of dollars from countries, from IMF, $4 billion, and growing fiscal deficit. This is what they have asked. And they have said that in India, the consumption expenditure will decrease because of uneven growth and growth potential not reaching where it should have reached by now. Consumption potential amongst people will decrease, right? Not increase at the right way. So this is what the World Bank has stated. Each of these indicators that I have mentioned forms a question in itself. So look at it carefully, think about it, when you have time. What could be the possible answers? Say 4 bottlenecks in supply, and what are these 4 possible solutions? Similarly, look at financial sector vulnerabilities. What are the vulnerabilities? Credit management, non-performing assets, returning of assets, vulnerable sections not being empowered, right? So this is where a question was also asked. Protect the vulnerable. The government has job of protecting the vulnerable. Amidst that, government also needs to ensure that the growth is greener. Not only this, the government also will have to look at certain more things. For example, it will have to provide subsidies to people. It will have to give certain social sector initiatives to people. And how will such things happen? And even inflation to be controlled. So look at this management. This is not only monetary management and fiscal management. This is also administrative management. Because if monetary level, if we are fixed means we cannot be flexible. If at fiscal level we are fixed, the fiscal deficit will rise, current account deficit will rise. That is where administrative capabilities, administrative efficiencies, service delivery efficiency also plays a humongous role. So look at these parameters while we look at the struggles. All right, moving ahead to understanding what was Oxfam's report. Oxfam spoke of a report just released 2 days back. And in the report, it spoke about the impact of COVID and how many people have fallen to extreme poverty levels. Do not confuse with the IMF report. IMF report says that the number of extremely poor people in India have remained almost same, less than 1%, even before COVID and during COVID. But this report speaks of world level. The people who are extremely poor at the world level, 250 million people have increased in that. 250 million, 263 million more people living in extreme poverty this year, resulting in total of almost 1 billion people living below poverty, that is $1.9 a day, that is extreme poverty line. So this is the status of the world, and this is where it has given 5 important suggestions to come out of a situation like this. Now this is not only relevant for the countries which are going through this extreme poverty, but also for India. Poverty level ke liye bhi this is important. So what are the 5 things? I picked it up directly from the report. They are: protect the poorest people from the harms of inflation. This is point number 1. Second, cancel the unpayable debts to poorer countries. Cancel the unpayable debts. If Sri Lanka has taken loans and it is not going to pay, not able to pay even for the coming 100 years, cancel that debt. No problem. Everybody will have to bear this burden. Tax the wealthy people more, right? Reallocate and reissue SDR, special drawing rights, what happens is when all the countries, they provide their funds to IMF, the proportion in which the emergency fund is given to people is only in proportion to their allocation, to what they have dedicated. The proportion in which the funds have to be distributed back to the countries is in proportion to how much they have funded, right? But then the Oxfam report says that reissue SDR to those countries a little more which are more vulnerable. And then it says that increase the life-saving emergency aid to poorer countries, COVID drugs, life testing, right? All those things. So this is important. Considering the situation of the whole world, right? They have summarized how to come out of a situation like extreme poverty during tough times. So 5 points ready for you. Oxfam report. You need not even quote Oxfam report. This can be your own point. That's the best part. The next update is on cotton imports. If you remember, we had covered a complete feature news on the rising prices of cotton. Many reasons for that. For example, not only supply chain demand issues, but the prices of cotton do rise at certain junctures. People hoard cotton, and this is how the middle person also earns a lot. And these are the times when cotton prices have risen. The cotton demand, the textile demand also is there around the whole world. There is supply demand mismatch. China is not being able to provide cotton textile to the whole world because of issues in Xinjiang province. That is because the better part of the world, that is the developed world, they have accused China of human rights violations, and they're not exporting from Xinjiang province. So there is a way in which India can also become a part of supply chain of cotton products. I'm speaking of cotton products, but India needs raw material. The raw material is not available, right? The production is one issue. The supply and the cost of the raw cotton is high now. So therefore, India has said we will be importing cotton, but we will not be imposing the custom duty, the import duty. If we do this, our cotton products, the eventual product, the textile which is made, and the entity which is finally made, that will be exported from India, and we will have better exports. The textile sector is 5% of India's GDP, right? Provides very decent level of employment in the country. After agriculture sector, it is textile which provides the largest employment. So waiving duty is a good step, right? Providing a boost to India's textile industry and export. Once we have the supply chain fixed, once we start becoming a better export economy for cotton textiles, then we will have our own way in future, right? That means raising imposing the duty again. All right. So cotton textile exports will get a further boost as the high prices of cotton were blunting to the competitive edge. That's absolutely true. Midair refueling. This is where HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and along with Israeli aerospace industries, they have signed a pact in which the civil passenger aircrafts will be converted into multi-mission tanker transport. Mid-air refueling is a concept in which the aircraft need not land on the Earth's surface. It will be refueling the other aircraft. Simple example is a fighter plane mid-air itself. So both the planes, example fighter plane Sukhoi 30, along with a mid-air refueling tanker. Aircraft itself getting converted into a tanker, they will be refueling the fighter aircraft mid-air. Now this increases the potency, the distance to which the aircraft, that is the fighter aircraft, it can move. This will also increase the payload, the potential payload the fighter plane can carry. How? If the fighter plane's oil tanker is not, its capacity is not risen, but then every 2000 kilometers it can be refueled, that's a better thing, because in that way the aircraft will be able to carry more ammunition, more resources, more personnel, more logistics. That's how it is going to impact. And India has got 6 aircraft already. IL-76 is one of the largest planes that India has imported from Russia. We have got 6 of them. India has been looking for 6 more planes of this sort, but we know we are also engaging with diverse partners. So we have started to engage with Israel right now, and the best part is that we are not importing these planes from Israel. We are only converting our civilian planes into these mid-air refueling tankers called as multi-mission tanker transport. So saves money for us, makes the technology indigenous. So lesser imports, the aircraft goes the distance, there is increased payload, sabka fayda. All right. Now, one important fact about Israel is that Israel's as many as 70% of defense exports, they go to which country? You got to type that in the comment section. Which country? Israel's exports, defense exports. Yakshagana and news. Many people have started to learn the practice of Yakshagana, how it is done. Now, this is a practice of, this is a folk dance in coastal Karnataka, Dakshin Kannada and Tulu region, those places where what you see in the image, this is the form in which dance is practiced. Not only female, but male people also indulge in these dances. And in general, one would easily understand if a person dancing Kathak or say Kathakali, if that person is a male or a female. But here, the kind of elaborate makeup and the way the props are worn, it is very tough at times to understand whether it is a male or a female performing this. Now, this kind of performance, the local folk Yakshagana, this is the one in which people practice and people share the traditional folk through mythological stories. So stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata and various other epics are shared with the help of Yakshagana. All right. What is important here to understand is that in the modern times, in the 19th century, 20th century, Yakshagana was performed in front of the audience, and people would be able to understand the recitals through Yakshagana. So sharing and passing off the mythological stories to people through Yakshagana. And what is important in Yakshagana? Rag, Tal, the literature, the costumes, right? All right. Rag, the way it is sung, Tal, and literature, and the costumes. The literature is, what is being passed on as text. All right. So, in other forms of audience, one can easily identify a man in a female role, but it is hard in Yakshagana as the makeup, costume, body language, and changing of the voice from masculine to feminine is unique. Where is it practiced? Coastal Karnataka. All right. So, a part of India's Vaishnavite culture as well, right? 11th, 12th century, and we started all this. All right. This is Centibillionaire community. Centibillionaire. Centi means 100 and billionaire means people owning $1 billion, right? So, people owning $100 billion plus. Imagine this. Very tough to even imagine how much this amount of money would be and in how many closed rooms would it be stored, whether it can be deposited and taken out from Bank of Spain, or will it need more such buildings, right? That's the question. So people who are atop here are Mr. Bezos, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and there are other people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and people from Facebook, owner of Zara. And where is our Mr. Ambani? Mr. Ambani with $40 billion. This is where the news is that, and Jack Ma, $39 billion. This is where the first Indian who's come up in this list of world's not only richest people, but the richest owners of the wealth is Mr. Gautam Adani, right? Renewable energy, renewable power. And the reason why people's wealth has increased substantially right now is because this gentleman, Adani, he's indulged himself in energy sector, power sector. And power sector, energy sector, renewable energy sector is growing like anything in the country. A lot of investments coming into India, and there are only few important industries. And therefore, even when his company is in deficit and a lot of debt, even then people are funding it, and that's how the stocks are rising up, and his ownership worth is only rising with time. All right. So Gautam Adani, a part of Centibillionaires. This is where we end into the last segment, and that is the bank Sakhi. It's a very beautiful case study of organizations which are helping in distributing the funds to locals. So a few organizations which have started helping lending money. See, until now what was happening was there would be self-help groups in which women would be aiding each other, providing finances to each other, right? But now certain organizations have linked themselves to women. For example, if a woman owns a kirana store, or she's a little educated, literate, or she can take initiative, they are passing on funds to her, and this lady in turn can provide finances to all the other people, to all the other ladies. And of course, this is microcredit, and this will come back to the organization themselves. So this is not only a social sector initiative, this is also helping into growth and outreach of that particular organization. And the organization that is doing this work is named as Bharat ATM. Bharat ATM providing these bank sakhis their job. If they have kirana store, they'll operate through kirana stores, or they will go to a centralized place and start lending to the other people, right? So this is a great initiative for women empowerment, for micro, small, medium industries generation, micro employment, self-employment schemes. The name of this particular scheme is Bank Sakhi, and the organization which is providing this is Bharat ATM. Through this, we come to the closure of current affairs segment. We will quickly meet in the video on today's theme discussion, feature news discussion, which is on a debate around Hindi language as the national language, right? So if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. And hello Sam, Vivek, good evening. Okay, so Vivek says 75 times. Okay, acknowledged. Textile sector, 5 crore employment. Textile sector, 5 crore of employment, next only to agriculture, and almost 5% of India's GDP as well. Hima says USA. No. Israel. Why would USA import? USA is a net exporter of defense technology and defense supplies. No, we had shown that. Why would USA import? USA is one of the largest exporters. Largest importers are Saudi Arabia, India. Israel is dependent on a country like India for its defense exports. Imagine. So we have made countries dependent. Their earnings are dependent on us. So who will lead the game? We will. Right? That is the part that India has. Now, if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. Let's quickly meet in the feature news video. Thank you for participating. People viewing offline, you have questions, you want to participate in answer writing, please come up and start sharing your inputs so that it is helpful for everybody. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in the feature news section.